Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name's Richard Cruz, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Warrant Officer Kevin Close. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors and students on behalf of the following schools. From South Australia, Pembroke School, Kensington Park. And from Western Australia, Georgiana Malloy Anglican School, Busselton. Could I ask you to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem? Students, you may be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, was best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations over more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
We pause here to remember and pay tribute to the three Seabrook brothers. All three were killed within 24 hours in the Battle of Menin Road in 1917. George Ross Seabrook was born on the 14th of February 1892. His brother Leo Leslie was born on the 17th of May 1893. And a third brother, William Keith, known by his middle name, was born on the 24th of March 1896. William and Fanny Seabrook were raising their family of 7 children in the Sydney suburb of Petersham when Australia joined the Great War in 1914. George was working as a master painter and had married Winifred Keane in 1913. Theo worked at the locomotive workshops at Everleigh, stoking the fires of steam engines. Keith had left his job as a telephonist to enlist in the militia in August 1915 and was commissioned as a lieutenant. Because he was too young for a commission in the forces to be sent overseas, he served as a lieutenant at Casula, Liverpool and Cootamundra. In mid-1916, the three Seabrook brothers successfully enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force. By this time, George's wife had died, leaving him a widower. Posted to the 17th Battalion, they spent a period of training in Australia before leaving that October for active service overseas on the troop ship Acanis. They continued trading in England and were eventually sent to fight on the Western Front in France and Belgium. All three proved able soldiers, and Keith's previous military training stood him in good stead. In July 1917, he was commissioned and given command of 11 platoon in the battalion's C Company. On 20th September 1917, the Seabrook brothers participated in a major operation when the 17th Battalion attacked the German positions in front of the village of West Hook in the Battle of Menin Road. Advancing more than a kilometre, the battalion's attack was successful. But the day would prove devastating to the Seabrook family. With a final handshake for his batman, Lieutenant Keith Seabrook led the men of his platoon into the front line positions. While walking in single file along the duckboards, they were hit by a phosphorus bomb that killed or wounded the full section of the platoon he was leading. Keith Seabrook suffered severe wounds from the blast, and although he made it to a casualty clearing station, the popular young officer died of his wounds the following day. In the breast pocket of his tunic was found a photograph of his mother containing a single bullet hole. He was 21 years old. As their younger brother was being stretchered from the battlefield, Privates George and Theo Seabrook were with the battalion as it launched its attack. Shortly afterwards, both were hit by the same artillery shell and killed instantly. Their bodies were never found. Their names are on the Menin Gate, along with more than 6,000 other Australians dead and missing in Flanders. George was 25 years old, Theo a year younger. Mrs. Seabrook chose the epitaph for her son Keith's headstone in the Lisson Hook Military Cemetery, a willing sacrifice for the world's peace. One family, 3 sons, all dead in a single day. Australia sustained 5,013 casualties in that Battle of the Menin Road. The devastating impact on the Seabrook family of the loss of their sons is beyond our comprehension. Mrs. Seabrook desperately wrote to the military authorities on the 27th of November 1917 in the knowledge of Keith's death, but seeking information about Theo and George. It is all very confusing to our minds, and if you could explain to me, we would be much obliged and thankful. The blow of losing our 3 sons in one battle is terrible. We are heartbroken. She later wrote to the Member of Parliament, having given our 3 boys as a sacrifice to the country. Their loss I will never recover, and now my husband is a complete wreck. I have put my property up for sale as it seems there is no other way. Mr. Seabrook has been raving about our 3 boys and has delusions of all kinds. Please pardon me for telling you all these things, but I have no one to confide in. Their names are listed on the Roll of Honour to my right, among more than 60,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. Their photo is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. From left to right is Theo, William and George. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We remember and honour these 3 young Australians who gave their lives for us, our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.